Hi, folks. I hope that you guys are doing pretty well. So today is Saturday, the 22nd of February, 2025. And in today's video, I'm going to decipher for you in the book of Malachi, chapter 3. We're going to be going verse by verse from verse 1 all the way to verse 18. Now, in a previous video, I already spoken about the first four verses, okay? So the main interest will be from verse 5 all the way to verse 18. Now, as always, I do have a program, and so I put the date of when I'm doing this video today. Okay, so basically, let's just quickly get through verses 1 to 4 just to recap what all this means. Okay, behold, I will send my messenger, which is Moses. See my previous video, and he shall prepare the way before me, and the Lord whom you seek, that's the Antichrist, shall suddenly come to his temple. In other words, he's going to be causing the abomination of desolation. Um, at, in the early days of the second half of the tribulation period, okay, and then he goes to Moses, even the message of the covenant, which is Moses. If you look at um, Exodus chapter 24, verse 7, whom you delight in, okay, so of course, the Jewish people have a high respect for Moses because he's the giver of the law, okay. Behold, he shall come. In other words, Moses said a lot of hosts. Inasmuch as Moses is coming for the tribulation period, so is Elijah here on chapter 4, verse 5, because these are the two olive branches, according to Zechariah chapter 4, verse 14. Okay. Now, verse 2. But who might abide the day of his coming? That's Moses. He's coming with a lot of power. And so is Elijah. And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he's like a refiner's fire and like fuller's soap. Okay, so it's gonna cleanse and refine and purify the sons of Levi. Okay, in other words, the priests that are going to be there, during the tribulation period. Okay, and he, meaning Moses, shall sit as a refiner because Moses is actually a Levite himself, so he's going to be purifying the priest. Okay. And so, yeah, he shall sit as a refiner and purify all silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, the priest, and purge them as gold and silver, that they might offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. Okay. And of course, this is going to happen during the first half of the tribulation period because both Moses and Elijah, are going to be overcome, by the devil. So, but anyway, let's move on then. Verse 4. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto the Lord, as in the days of old, and as in former years. Think of the days under the law, when the Jewish people used to do sacrifices, when Moses and Elijah turn up and use that third temple, together with the Levi priests, they're going to be making offerings unto the Lord, which are going to be pleasant, as in the former days. Okay. Now, verse 5, and I will come near to you to judgment. This is actually interesting. So, this is during the tribulation period. God has to judge, the nation of Israel because of the great iniquity, according to Jeremiah chapter 30. And so we know that according to Zechariah chapter 13, verses 8 and 9, only the one third will make it through. So let me show you where I'm linking this prophecy here, in which it says, I will come near to you to judgment. Okay. So in my program here, Jesus will judge the nation of Israel. This prophecy is linked to Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 11, where it reads, But I will correct thee in measure. Okay. So Jesus will judge the nation of Israel. Jeremiah 30:11, but I will correct thee in measure and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. That's what it says in Jeremiah 30, verse 11. But it's also linked to Zechariah chapter 13, verses 8 and 9, where it reads, and I will bring the third part through the fire. Okay. Perhaps I could quickly show you Jeremiah 30:11, so that, we're on Jeremiah already, so that you get a better idea. Okay, so head over to Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 11. For I am with thee, said the Lord, to save thee, thou will make a full, though I make a full end of all nations. This is going to be when Jesus comes back for the millennial kingdom. It'll be the end of the Gentile period, and God is going to judge him in the valley of Jehoshaphat. Okay, whether I have scattered thee, yet I will not make a full end of thee, but I will correct. Okay, correct thee in measure. Okay, and I will leave, and I will not leave thee, altogether unpunished. Okay, so verse 5, then here, I will come near to you to judgment. It's actually linked to Jeremiah chapter 30, 11, but it's also linked to Zechariah 13, verses 8 and 9. Here is, I will bring the third part through the fire. Now, I won't take you there. You can read this for yourself because it's going to be an extremely long video. Okay. And then the prophecy reads, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers. Those people that are doing witchcraft and things like that, and against the adulterers, people sinning, and against false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, in other words, employers who are ripping off their workers, okay? The widow and the fatherless, in other words, the orphan people, okay? And to turn aside the stranger from his right. Now, from his right, he's talking about those people that turn away righteous people. And look how interesting the prophecy is in here, how it's actually written in a different font compared to the rest, It's in a different italics, and the fathers and that then turn aside the stranger from his right. In other words, those people that turn away righteous people and fear not me, in other words, God, said the Lord of hosts. Okay? Now, let me just turn over the page here on my program so we get through this. And then on verse 6, it reads, For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, you sons of Jacob are not consumed. Now, this consume, is trying to say that the Jewish people are not going to be totally consumed, if you like, during the tribulation period. And it's actually linking this to Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7, where it reads, But he shall be saved out of it. Okay, so head over to Jeremiah 30, verse 7. He shall be saved out of it. So the Jewish people or Jacob are not going to be totally consumed. Okay, and it's also linked to Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 10, where it reads, Jacob shall return. Okay, so therefore, if Jacob is returning, they are not going to be consumed. Okay, and shall be in rest, especially when Jesus comes back for the millennial kingdom. Okay, now verse 7, but you said, wherein shall we return? In other words, the Jewish people will be afraid during the tribulation period and will be asking, how can we return if we are stuck in this tribulation period? It's almost impossible. Now, this verse here, I believe, is actually linked to Isaiah 28:19, where it will be a vexation to understand the report. Okay, so the Jewish people are asking themselves the question, wherein shall we return? What are we returning back to if we, in fact, we are in tribulation period? It's so difficult. Okay, so I believe it's linked to Isaiah 20:19 because as the Jewish people ask this question, what are we returning to? They're going to be thinking about, it should be a vexation to understand the report, according to Isaiah 28:19. They're going to be thinking, look what's happening to us during the tribulation period. We can hardly believe what's happening to us. What are we going to be returning back to, So, pardon me, verse 8, God asks, will a man rob God? That's interesting. In other words, God is saying, can anybody undo whatever I want to do and deny me? So God can do anything He wants, and nobody can rob God. And if God is going to put, the Jewish people through the tribulation period and let it be a vexation unto them to understand the report, who can rob God of that? No one can rob God of whatever He wants to do. So yeah, in other words, can anybody do whatever uh, uh, whatever I want to do or deny me? This is what God is saying. And then God is saying, "You have robbed me in tithes and offerings." That's right. The Jewish people have robbed, God in tithes and in offerings because think, the events that were happening, especially after the death of Solomon, how Israel became the downfall, if you like, which was prophesied anyway. And then they lost a second, they lost the first temple, they went into captivity. We know about the lost 10 tribes, the northern kingdom went to, attacking up the Assyrian Empire, and then the southern kingdom went into captivity into Babylon, and so the Jewish people have robbed God as a result of those sins in tithes and offerings because the Jewish people, when they lost, the first temple, they weren't able to do any more offerings. So this verse 8 here, this relates to all those periods in which the Jewish people were in captivity uh, due to sin and could not offer God the sacrifices and the 10% tithes of the harvest and flocks, according to the Leviticus chapter 27 verses 30 and 33 and Deuteronomy chapter 14 verses 22 and 29. Plus, aside from losing the first and the second temple, plus the Jewish people have robbed God for not accepting the Messiah Jesus on his first advent. That's right. And all the offerings that Jesus has thus far missed out on, because when Jesus came on his first advent, the Jewish people could have given him many offerings, and tithes, like it says in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, like I just showed you these prophecies, and God was robbed. God was truly robbed by the Jewish people, according to everything that I have said here. Anyway, let's move on. We're trying to keep this video as short as possible so I can upload quickly. You can also read the Bible, read the verses yourself. I'm just trying, because there's so many verses, I'm trying to make this as quick as possible. But of course, I'm dealing here with intelligent Bible scholars who can, read the Bible and link all this together, okay? So let's get on to verse 9. You are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me. Okay, following on from verse 8, the Jewish people have robbed God of many tithes and flocks. Okay, so go back to verse 8. And So yeah, you are cursed with a curse. You have robbed me, even this whole nation, meaning Israel. This curse is linked to Jeremiah chapter 30:14. For I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy. This wound is actually the curse, Jacob's trouble. Okay, so verse 9 is linked to Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 14. Let me quickly show you that because this is actually important so that you get the idea. So Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 14. So the word it reads here, um, all thy lovers have forgotten thee. This is going to happen especially during the second half of the tribulation period, when the Antichrist causes the abomination of desolation. They seek thee not, exactly because of the abomination of desolation. Jerusalem is going to be compassed with armies. For I have wounded thee, that's a curse, with a wound of an enemy, with a chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitudes of thy iniquity, because thy sins were increased. Okay, so that's a curse. In other words, Jacob's trouble. Then verse 10, bring you all the tithes into the storehouse, that there might be meat in my house. This is actually linked to Zechariah chapter 14, verses 20 and 21. The sacrifices and the pots. Let me show you that in Zechariah chapter 14. Okay, so Zechariah chapter 14. Here we are. Verses 20 and 21. Okay, so just remember what the prophecy says. Okay, bring you all the tithes into the storehouse, that there might be meat in my house. Okay, and it's linked to Zechariah chapter 14, verses 20 and 21. Okay, so Zechariah 20 and 21, chapter 14. Okay, in that day shall there be upon the bells on the horses holiness unto the Lord, and the pots. Okay, so here we see, the tithes in the Lord's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. Okay, so these are the tithes that will be given to the Lord upon his millennial kingdom return. Yeah, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto the Lord of hosts. Okay, so the pot, okay, the offerings, the tithes, if you like, and all that sacrifice shall come and take of them. Okay, the sacrifice, okay, the tithes, the offerings, uh, and seed therein. And in that day there shall be no more the Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts. Okay, so yeah, basically, verse 10 here, I'm looking into Zechariah 14, 20, 21. That was the sacrifices, and the pots are actually linked to the tithes. Bring you all the tithes into the storehouse. Okay, this is going to happen upon the second coming of Jesus for the millennial kingdom. Okay, this is why it requires deep analytical thinking as to how you can link prophecies that are actually linked to these verses. Okay, so now then, verse 11, rebuke the devourer. The devourer is none other than the Antichrist. It's linked to Revelation 19:20, when the beast and the false prophet are cast alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone. Okay, so when God comes back for the millennial kingdom, he's going to rebuke the devourer, the Antichrist. And so verse 11 is linked to Revelation 19:20, where the beast and the false prophet are going to be put into the lake of fire and brimstone. They're going to be cast alive. And also the devil is going to be bound up 1,000 years into the abyss. Okay, and so the Antichrist will not be able to destroy, the crops or the fruits of your grounds. Okay, uh, and that God is going to make sure that he does this supernaturally, and your crops will harvest on the appointed time, like it says on verse 11 here. And I will rebuke the devourer, that's the Antichrist. Okay, he's going to perform the judgments like I just said. And he, meaning the Antichrist, shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, in other words, the agriculture. Neither shall your vine, in other words, the agriculture, cast forth fruits before the time in the field, in other words, that the crops are going to come in according to their appointed time, said the Lord of hosts. So this is a promise that Jesus is going to be doing, in the nation of Israel. Okay. Now then, verse 12, all the nations shall call you blessed. Okay, so this is actually linked to Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 19 and 20, where it reads, and I will get them prize and fine, okay, in every land where they have been put to shame. Okay, so all nations shall bless them. I will get them fine. In other words, that the nations will praise and bless Israel. And it's also linked to Zephaniah 3:20. Let me show you quickly Zephaniah 3 and Zephaniah 3 19 and 20. Okay, so head over to Zephaniah chapter 3 verses 19 and 20. Okay, behold, and at that time I will undo all that afflict thee. This is Jesus' millennial kingdom coming, and I will save her that halteth, and gather her that was driven out. In other words, that Jesus will bring all the Jewish people in captivity, upon his arrival of the millennial kingdom, and I will get them prize and fine in every land where they have been put to shame. And in verse 20, at that time I will bring you again, even in the time that I will gather you, for I will make you a name and a prize among all the nations. So in other words, that all the nations are going to be blessing Israel, because Jesus is going to make sure that the Jewish people are prized among all the people, okay, of the earth. when I turn back your captivity before your eyes, said the Lord. Okay, um, so yeah, verse 12 then, all nations shall call you blessed, okay? It's linked to Zephaniah chapter 3, verses 19 and 20, okay? So, verse 13 then, your words have been stirred against me. Uh, of course, the Jewish people words have been stirred against Jesus. Think of the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, as to how the Jewish people refused to believe on Jesus. They have been stirred against me, and therefore they have to go into the tribulation period, Jacob's trouble. So yeah, think of the four Gospels as to how the Jewish people refused to believe on Jesus, even today, not just on Jesus' first advent, but even today, and during Jacob's trouble, uh, the words of the Jewish people have been stirred against Jesus, and it's not only during Jesus' first advent, but it's actually even today and during Jacob's trouble. And you know why it's going to be during Jacob's trouble? Because if you read Zechariah chapter 13, verses 8 and 9, only one third will make it through. And the fact that only one third will make it through into the land, it means that they are being stout, against Jesus. So yeah, this is linked to Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 15. Why criest thou for thy affliction? The Jewish people are crying for their affliction during the tribulation period, according to Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 15. Why are you crying for for your affliction when, on Jesus' first advent, you refuse to believe, on him, even today, and even during Jacob's trouble. This is why it's linked to Jeremiah 30:15. Why do you cry for your affliction? They need to believe on Jesus. So, moving along then, verse 14, you have said, it is fine to serve God. And what profit is it that we have kept his ordinance and that we have walked mournfully before the Lord of hosts? This is actually linked to Isaiah 28:15, the covenant with death and with hell. In other words, disobeying God. Because the Jewish people are disobeying God today. Many Jewish people probably have lost faith in God. Many are thinking that it's fine to serve God. And that you know, and that I think that there is no profit in them serving God. And so we know that Israel is going to be signing that covenant with death and with hell, according to Isaiah 28:15. And so that's why I linked this verse 14 with Isaiah 20:15, because the Jewish people will sign this covenant with death and with hell, as he's saying to themselves, it is fine to serve God. Because if they actually did serve God, they wouldn't be signing this covenant with death and with hell. Okay. Now, verse 15. And now we call the proud happy. In other words, during the tribulation period, the proud, in other words, the Antichrist, and all his cronies, all those unbelievers, are going to be proud and happy. Yeah, they that work wickedness are set up exactly because that Israel has signed the covenant with death and with hell. They're proud, the Antichrist, all his cronies and the unbelievers are all set up. Okay, they that tempt God are even delivered. So this verse 15, I put it down to link to Jeremiah chapter 30, verses 13 and 14. None to plead thy cause, because the Jewish people have signed the covenant with death and with hell. Okay, thy lovers have forgotten thee. Especially this is verse 13 here in Jeremiah chapter 30. None to plead thy cause, the lovers have forgotten thee, especially during the second half of the tribulation period when the Jewish people have to flee. And the proud here, Mr. Antichrist, is going to cause him the abomination of desolation, and he's going to compass Jerusalem with armies. So, Yeah, so rather, yeah, on verse 13, sorry, I should have said none to plead thy cause, and then on verse 14 here, that thou hast forgotten thee, okay? Plus also Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 17, where is I will restore health unto thee. In other words, that God is going to, delivering the Jewish people, okay? I will restore health unto thee. But there's many, many prophecies aside from this Jeremiah 30, verse 17, in which Jesus will bring his captivity back. The small part. Just to give this video short, I'm only giving you one. Pardon me. Verse 16. And a book of remembrance was written before him, in other words, God, for them that fear the Lord, that the thought upon His name. Okay, so those Jewish people in the tribulation period, those that have believed in God and in Jesus, will get into the book of life. So this is actually linked to Daniel 12:1. Okay, and in Daniel 12:1 it reads, "And at that time, thy people shall be delivered." Okay, in other words, at the end of the tribulation period, when Jesus comes back, for the millennium, everyone that shall be found written in the book. Okay, so this verse 16, and a book of remembrance was written before him, okay, for them that fear the Lord and that thought upon his name. So it's linked to Daniel 12:1. Um, you know, uh, those that make it through into the millennial kingdom, the Jewish people. And don't forget, Zechariah chapter 13, verses 8 and 9, the only one third will make it through. Those that are in the land, in other words, in Israel during the tribulation period. But because Daniel 12:1, talks about, the book of life, then this verse 16 is actually linked to Daniel 12:1. Okay. Now, verse 17, and it shall be mine in that day when I make my jewels. Okay. So, and I will spare them. So, what Jesus is talking about here when he's making his jewels, okay, on verse 17, let me show you here. And they shall be mine. In other words, the Jewish people when he comes back for the millennial kingdom, so the Lord of hosts, in that day when I make my jewels. This is actually linked to um, Revelation 19:12, okay, because Jesus is going to be coming down with all his crowns, okay, and I will spare them. He will save Jacob, as a man spareth his own son that serveth him, So, of course, the Jewish people are the servants of God. So let me show you when I make up my jewels in Revelation 19:12. Okay, so Revelation 19:12. Bear with me, folks. So Revelation 19:12. Okay, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. These are the jewels. So Jesus, he's coming back for the millennial kingdom. Uh, you know, uh, Preparing, his jewels, if you like, coming with his many crowns, and he had a name greeting that no man knew but he himself. Okay, so on verse 19 here, sorry, 17 here, and Micah might choose. This is Jesus coming down, with his crowns. Okay, and I will spare them. He will save a remnant of the Jewish people. And of course the Jewish people are the servants of God. Now, verse 18, then shall you return, this is the Jewish people, and discern between the righteous and the wicked, okay? Between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not. Now, this is actually linked to Joel chapter 3, verse 2, in other words, the judgment in the valley of Jehoshaphat, because he reads here, then you shall return and discern between the righteous and the wicked. So when the Jewish people that remnant might get through into the millennial kingdom, when Jesus is there, and then you're going to discern between the righteous and the wicked. God is going to perform that judgment in the valley of Jehoshaphat between the righteous and the wicked. And it's also to do with the judgment of the nations on the sheep nations and the goat nations, according to Matthew chapter 25, verses 32 and 33. Well, okay, be to him that serve God and him that serve him not. In other words, the judgment of the nations. Those that will serve God, in other words, the righteous, the sheep nations, and those that serve him not, in other words, the goat nations. So, for my program here, then, verse I think is actually linked to Joel 3:2, the judgment in the valley of Jehoshaphat, plus the judgment of the sheep and the goat nations. Okay, found in Matthew 25, verses 32 and 33. Okay, folks. So I'm just gonna give you a quick scan of my program here. I'll do it nice and slow in case you want to study my notes more thoroughly. And I hope this video has been a blessing so that you can understand this chapter in Malachi chapter 3, 1 to 18. Okay, so let me turn over the page. So you can always pause and rewind the video and check out all the prophecies, and have a very deep analytical thinking about everything that I have said, and how you can connect all these prophecies found in all these verses, with other prophecies in the Bible, because all these verses are linked to other prophecies in the Bible. There's always more than one prophecy that you can link a verse with. So, yeah, this is a very fascinating chapter, Malachi chapter 3. And it can be a very difficult chapter to understand. You really got to do a lot of analytical thinking as to how you can link, all these verses. So I guess this chapter 3 is actually for experienced Bible scholars, this Malachi chapter 3. Okay. All right, folks, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all later.